In 1969, the year Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon, a young singer named David Bowie released the single Space Oddity. David Bowie, whose real name was David Robert Jones. David Jones? Jones. Was unknown at the time, a new artist struggling to find a voice and an audience. The song was a minor hit, but many dismissed it as an attempt to cash in on the excitement surrounding the moon landing, one of those here today, gone tomorrow pop songs. People had no idea that the song marked the entrance of one of the 20th century's biggest superstars. For Bowie, despite the tie-in with current events, Space Oddity was no mere piece of pop ephemera. Instead, it firmly established and articulated the obsessions and themes that would mark his career. Major Tom, floating out in space, alone, isolated, detached from the regular world that was calling to him, and in danger of floating off into the empty void around him. Major Tom is Bowie. I think my life on Earth is nearly through, he tells Ground Control, hardly before his life on Earth has even begun. But floating in his tin can is not terrifying, since his spaceship knows which way to go, as if forces beyond his control, or perhaps forces deep inside him, are propelling him off course and into the deep of space. Planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do, he sings. He's off, he's gone, he's going into outer space. He is no longer an earthling, he is an astronaut, a visitor, an alien. He's going to the stars. Like fellow traveler Dave Bowman in Stanley Kubrick's 1986 film 2001: A Space Odyssey, not a Space Oddity, a Space Odyssey, which David Bowie likely had in mind when he wrote Space Odyssey, Major Tom is passing into the unknown and becoming something else, something new. He's becoming David Bowie. Themes of loneliness, of being different and alien, of coming from or going to another world dominate Bowie's career. And they are all present, even if only in a nascent form, in Space Oddity. Space Odyssey also signals another important feature of Bowie's career, his creation of different persona and characters that over his 6-decade career he would inhabit and become. Bowie liked to examine himself and present himself to others in the guise of someone else, as if the only way he could make his own life intelligible was to pretend he was looking at someone else's life, as if, in a sense, he himself were a text, one constantly being written and rewritten. He is David Bowie, after all, not David Jones. Sometimes this self-creation took the form of a persona he would inhabit and become, like Ziggy Stardust, his most famous alter ego. Sometimes it took the form of a character or a voice that exists for a single song. Sometimes the persona took over, and people weren't sure who Bowie even really was, and maybe Bowie himself didn't even know. But he was always inventing himself, always changing who he was. Major Tom would continue to show up in songs throughout Bowie's career, such as in the 1980 song Ashes to Ashes, or in the iconography of 2016's Black Star. Bowie's songs were an act of self-creation. He was never settled in who he was. He was constantly inventing new possibilities for who he could be. But in the end, the persona he was most comfortable in, the one he returned to over and over, was the astronaut. The visitor to or from another world, the outsider who had something to say to us. David Jones became David Bowie, and David Bowie was always becoming someone else. Space Oddity